Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who is truly in control of your desires? Not just what you want, but why you want it. The scrolling, the tapping, the endless hunger for the next little high. When did it all begin? It wasn't sudden. It started slowly, subtly. Maybe it was the first time you reached for your phone in the middle of a conversation. Or when silence made you anxious, so you filled it with noise, music, videos, anything to avoid the stillness. Then over the years, without even realizing it, your attention span began to fracture. Reading a book felt heavy. Sitting with boredom felt unbearable. Doing one thing at a time became boring. Your brain began to crave speed, color, sound. 1,000 hits of dopamine disguised as freedom. Social media told you this was connection. Junk food told you this was self-care. Entertainment told you this was happiness. And you believed it not because you were weak, but because you were human. And the system that surrounds you understands human nature better than you do. You didn't give away your freedom. It was taken from you one pleasurable click at a time. And now here you are, tired, distracted emotionally, dull yet overstimulated. You can't focus for long. You don't feel deeply anymore. You keep seeking pleasure, but you never feel satisfied. And the most terrifying part, you've accepted this as normal. But what if it's not? What if the very thing you call pleasure is the chain that's holding you back? What if your craving isn't freedom, but programming? What if the life you were meant to live, the one with meaning, strength and clarity, is buried beneath the cheap highs you chase every day? Let's go back. Let's rewind the timeline. Let's uncover how you got here and how to break free. Because if you don't own your desire, someone else does. We live in a time where consumption is constant, but fulfillment is rare. Most people don't scroll because they want to. They scroll because they can't stop. It's not enjoyment, it's reflex. It's habit disguised as desire. Every time your thumb moves across the screen, every time you open another tab, another app, another meaningless window into something you won't even remember tomorrow. What exactly are you feeling? Joy, curiosity, or just avoidance? We call it leisure. We convince ourselves that it's entertainment. But deep down, if we're honest, brutally honest, we know this isn't pleasure. It's escape. It's anesthesia. A temporary numbness that fills the silence we're too afraid to face. You laugh at videos that barely make you smile. You eat snacks not because you're hungry, but because you're bored. You binge watch shows not out of fascination, but to delay the discomfort of being alone with your thoughts. Pleasure, no. It's distraction with better branding. And yet, the world keeps feeding it to you. Infinite streams of content, notifications that never stop, feeds that never end. Everything you consume is optimized to capture your attention, not your soul. You think you're choosing to engage, but you're reacting. Reacting to what's been engineered to stimulate your most primitive instincts: novelty, speed, instant gratification. True enjoyment requires presence. It requires effort. It requires depth. But when was the last time you were fully present with something that didn't flash, buzz, or vibrate for your attention? The truth is hard to swallow. You've been conditioned to confuse consumption with satisfaction. But they're not the same. One fills time, the other fills meaning. This is not judgment. This is recognition. If you feel empty after consuming what you thought would bring pleasure, you're not broken. You're waking up. Because enjoyment is not what happens to you. It's what you bring to an experience. And if you've spent too long chasing stimuli that don't deserve your attention, maybe it's time to ask a harder question. What if the thing you thought was pleasure was just a habit wearing a mask? And if that's true, what else in your life is just noise? Nearly a century ago, Aldous Huxley saw our future with terrifying clarity. While Orwell warned of governments that would burn books and censor speech, Huxley warned of something far more seductive: a world where no one would care to read, where truth wouldn't be hidden, but drowned in a sea of irrelevance. And now you're living in it. He predicted that freedom wouldn't be stolen by force, it would be surrendered through pleasure. Not through brutality, but distraction. And what's more American than that entertainment as identity, consumption as culture? We celebrate freedom, yet fill every waking moment with noise, stimulation, and screens, as if the absence of entertainment were a kind of death. But this was Huxley's great insight. If you flood the human mind with so much stimulation, it loses the will and even the ability to seek meaning. That's how you build a cage no one tries to escape from. There's no need to ban critical thinking if people no longer practice it. There's no need to burn books when people choose TikToks over pages. No need to silence truth if you bury it beneath an avalanche of algorithmically tailored nonsense. The perfect prison doesn't have guards or walls. It has infinite options, none of which lead you to freedom. And what's most chilling, it doesn't feel like tyranny. It feels like fun. Huxley didn't predict a future where people are screaming for liberty. He saw one where people are laughing while they surrender it. They feel free because they can choose what show to binge, what fast food to eat, what filter to wear on their face. But none of those choices matter. They're distractions dressed as freedom. You think you're in control because you're not being told what to do. But what if the more dangerous form of control is making you want things that weaken you? Huxley saw it all, and now we don't need censorship. We don't need dictators. We just need pleasure on demand, and we'll hand over our minds willingly. The future he warned about isn't coming. It's already here. Pleasure wants a simple reward. A moment of joy is no longer what it used to be. In today's world, it has been transformed into a tool, a weapon carefully sharpened and wielded to control your mind and steal your freedom. This isn't a conspiracy theory whispered in the dark. It's a quiet reality playing out every time you reach for your phone, every time you take a bite without hunger, every time you laugh without genuine joy. They didn't just want to distract you, they wanted to weaken you. They took pleasure, a deeply human experience meant to nourish your soul, and turned it into a drug that numbs your senses and shatters your willpower. The endless scroll, the binge-watching, the sugar rushes, they are not pleasure in its pure form. They are carefully engineered hits of dopamine designed to keep you coming back, craving more, forever trapped in a loop of fleeting highs and deep emptiness. The worst part, this cycle doesn't make you stronger, it makes you weaker. Every instant gratification you chase chips away at your ability to find true satisfaction. Real pleasure requires patience, presence, and sometimes even struggle. But instant pleasure gives you nothing but a hollow echo that fades almost immediately, leaving behind an emptiness so vast it can feel unbearable. You might think that having so many options, countless shows, endless social media feeds, infinite snacks is freedom. But when every option is designed to capture your attention and hook your brain, choice becomes an illusion. It's a cage disguised as an open door. The more you indulge in these cheap pleasures, the more your capacity for real joy diminishes. You become dependent on the next hit, unable to feel contentment from anything that doesn't offer instant rewards. Pleasure in this twisted form isn't your friend, it's your captor. It keeps you passive, distracted, and disconnected from your deeper self. It saps your motivation to pursue anything meaningful, anything that requires effort or sacrifice. And that ultimately is the masterstroke of control, turning the very thing that should uplift you into the chains that bind you. We like to think of ourselves as free agents navigating a vast ocean of options with full control over our decisions. But what if that freedom is just a carefully constructed mirage? What if the choices we believe we make are less about genuine autonomy and more about subtle manipulation? The truth is, in a world engineered to keep you distracted and dependent, choice itself has become an illusion. Look around. Every app, every platform, every store offers you an overwhelming number of options. Endless menus, infinite playlists, countless shows, a billion products, so many possibilities that your mind can barely keep up. On the surface, it feels empowering. You're free to pick what you want. But freedom isn't about having more options. It's about having meaningful options that align with your true self and values. When every choice is designed by algorithms to capture your attention, to pull you deeper into consumption, are you really choosing what's best for you? Or are you responding to what's been tailored to exploit your vulnerabilities? The flicker of a notification, the colorful icon, the promise of instant satisfaction, these are the hooks baited into your psyche. Your brain is reacting, not reflecting. The idea of conscious choice fades as impulse takes over. This illusion of choice breeds a paradox. The more options you have, the less satisfied you become. When everything is replaceable and disposable, nothing feels fulfilling. Relationships become superficial because you always believe there's something better just to swipe away. Dreams are abandoned because instant gratification is more accessible than long-term effort. The abundance of options paradoxically traps you in indecision, distraction, and emotional emptiness. True freedom isn't endless scrolling or picking from a buffet of distractions. It's about reclaiming your power to say no to what doesn't serve your growth, your values, or your meaning. It's about deliberate choice grounded in self-awareness, not reflexive reaction. But to get there, you must first recognize that the system wants you to mistake abundance for freedom, distraction for agency. So next time you think you're choosing freely, pause and ask, who is really pulling the strings? Because when choice is engineered to keep you captive, freedom becomes just another form of control. Entertainment today has become a double-edged sword. On one side, a source of enjoyment and escape. On the other, a cleverly disguised addiction that quietly erodes our sense of self. We often mistake the constant stimulation for connection, the endless barrage of content for fulfillment. But beneath the flashing lights and catchy sounds lies a subtle trap, one that hooks us deeper with every notification and every dopamine hit. Think about the last time you reached for your phone, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. That restless urge to check a new message, watch one more video, scroll a little further. It's not merely a habit. It's a craving engineered to keep you coming back, a cycle that plays on your brain's deepest wiring. Each buzz or ping is a spark of artificial validation, a tiny reward that releases dopamine, the brain's chemical for pleasure and motivation. But unlike genuine happiness, this surge is fleeting, leaving behind a yearning for the next hit. This addiction is insidious because it wears the mask of entertainment. It promises joy, relaxation, and distraction, but in reality, it dulls your ability to feel real emotion and experience true engagement. Food isn't just nourishment anymore. It's dopamine in the form of sugar and fat, a quick fix that numbs the senses. Social media isn't about building genuine relationships. It's about chasing likes and fleeting approval. The content you consume is not knowledge or growth. It's mental anesthesia designed to keep your mind passive and compliant. Over time, this cycle of endless stimulation weakens your capacity for patience, focus, and meaningful connection. The next video, the next notification, the next bite, each becomes less about enjoyment and more about avoiding the uncomfortable silence and stillness of your own thoughts. You become addicted not to pleasure itself, but to the chase of the next dose, trapped in a never-ending loop that leaves your soul starved. And the system depends on this. Because an entertained population is a distracted population, one that rarely questions the world around it or their place within it. They don't need to control you with chains or walls. They only need to keep your eyes glued to the screen and your mind hungry for more stimulation. Recognizing this addiction is the first step toward reclaiming your freedom. Real entertainment should enrich your life, not drain it. It should inspire reflection, not induce numbness. Until then, beware. The most dangerous addiction is the one disguised as fun. In today's culture, we are sold a powerful lie that the ultimate purpose of life is to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and always feel good. Advertisements, social media, and even well-meaning advice constantly push this narrative, convincing us that happiness means comfort and ease. But this illusion, this lie, is slowly unraveling the very fabric of meaning in our lives. When pleasure becomes the goal, it stops being a reward and starts being a burden. We begin to expect happiness as our default state, and anything less feels like failure. This creates an impossible standard where joy must be constant, effortless, and instantly accessible. The problem is life rarely works that way. True fulfillment comes not from constant delight, but from engaging fully with the highs and the lows. It comes from struggle, sacrifice, and patience, the very things modern culture tells us to avoid. The relentless pursuit of pleasure leads to a shallow existence where depth is sacrificed for ease. We binge watch shows to escape our feelings, indulge in junk food, to mask stress, and swipe endlessly to distract ourselves from loneliness or boredom. But these momentary pleasures aren't nourishing, they are empty calories for the soul. They promise relief but deliver numbness, leaving us more disconnected and dissatisfied. When pleasure is mistaken for purpose, we lose our drive to pursue what truly matters. Dreams are abandoned because they require hard work and delayed gratification. Relationships crumble because they demand vulnerability and effort. Growth is stunted because discomfort is seen as something to avoid rather than embrace. This lie also breeds impatience. We want success, love, and happiness now, and if it doesn't come quickly, we give up. The modern world has conditioned us to flee discomfort instead of facing it head-on. But in reality, discomfort is the birthplace of meaning. Purpose emerges from challenges, from choosing the path that demands more from us, not less. Understanding this lie is liberating. It frees us from the endless chase for shallow pleasures and invites us to seek a life of significance, one rich with intention, resilience, and true joy. Because pleasure without purpose is fleeting, but purpose, even when difficult, endures. In an age where instant gratification is the norm, something vital is quietly unraveling beneath the surface: our ability to focus deeply and form meaningful connections. The collapse of attention spans is no mere inconvenience. It's a profound shift reshaping how we live, love, and relate to one another. Children once captivated by stories and books now find themselves lost in endless 5-second clips. Adults overwhelmed by constant stimulation struggle to enjoy silence or genuine presence. The results in an emotional landscape increasingly shallow and fragmented. This breakdown of attention erodes more than just concentration. It undermines the very foundation of relationships. Connection requires time, effort, and vulnerability, qualities that are hard to sustain when distracted by endless notifications and superficial interactions. The ease of instant satisfaction breeds impatience and a preference for what's quick and easy over what's challenging and rewarding. When the next swipe promises a better match or more excitement, relationships become disposable, void of the resilience and commitment that love demands. The emotional cost is high. We find ourselves surrounded by people yet profoundly lonely, craving authentic connection, but settling for surface-level engagement. Our interactions grow shorter, less empathetic, and more transactional. The art of listening deeply, of truly being present with someone else's experience, is fading into obscurity. In its place, a culture of constant distraction leaves us emotionally depleted, craving yet never fully satisfied. This collapse is not an accident. It's the byproduct of a system designed to capture and monetize our attention at all costs. The constant noise and stimulation hijack our minds, leaving little room for reflection, growth, or intimacy. But recognizing this decay is the first step toward reclaiming what has been lost. Rebuilding attention and relationships requires courage. The courage to resist easy pleasures, to embrace discomfort, and to prioritize depth over convenience. It demands that we reclaim silence, slow down, and invest fully in those we care about. Because without attention, there is no connection, and without connection, life loses its richest meaning. In a world bursting with endless options, paradoxically, many find themselves feeling profoundly empty. The promise of abundance, countless songs to listen to, infinite shows to binge, thousands of potential partners to meet, should theoretically bring freedom and fulfillment. Instead, it often breeds a deep sense of dissatisfaction. When everything is easy to replace and quickly consumed, nothing feels truly valuable or lasting. This culture of superficial choice encourages us to treat life like a buffet, sampling endlessly without committing, always searching for something better, just beyond our reach. Relationships suffer as a result. The idea that there is always someone else out there, just a swipe away, undermines the effort, patience, and vulnerability required to build true intimacy. People become disposable not because they lack worth, but because our attention has become so fragmented that we no longer fully invest in any one person. The same dynamic applies to dreams and ambitions. When instant gratification is more accessible than perseverance, we abandon long-term goals at the first sign of struggle. Why endure discomfort when a quick dopamine hit is so easy to find? This leads to a cycle of shallow pursuits and fleeting satisfactions where nothing is deeply cultivated and the soul grows restless. The root of this emptiness is not the choices themselves, but the superficiality of those choices. When our decisions are made hastily or without reflection, they lose their power to enrich our lives. Choices become habits of distraction rather than deliberate acts of creation. The more we indulge in this pattern, the more disconnected we become from ourselves, from others, and from what truly matters. There is a haunting loneliness that comes from knowing that despite having countless options, we still feel unfulfilled. It's a loneliness born of fragmentation and the loss of depth. The superficial can never replace the profound. Reclaiming meaning requires slowing down, resisting the allure of endless novelty, and choosing with intention. It means committing to the hard, the uncomfortable, and the meaningful. Only then can the choices we make begin to fill the emptiness, transforming abundance from a curse into a blessing. Growth rarely comes wrapped in comfort. In fact, discomfort is often the essential catalyst that transforms ordinary experiences into moments of profound change. Yet in a culture obsessed with ease and instant gratification, discomfort has become something to fear, avoid, or numb. We've been conditioned to run from what challenges us rather than lean into it. But true strength, success, and purpose are forged in the fires of struggle. The most meaningful achievements, whether in love, career, or personal development, require effort, sacrifice, and persistence. There is no shortcut to lasting fulfillment. The pain of rejection, the frustration of setbacks, and the boredom of repetition are not enemies but teachers. They push us beyond our comfort zones, forcing us to confront our limitations and grow beyond them. Yet the modern world tempts us to ignore these lessons. It offers distractions and easy pleasures that dull the edges of discomfort. While this may provide momentary relief, it ultimately leaves us weaker and more dependent. We lose the ability to endure hardship, to delay gratification, and to persevere when the rewards aren't immediate. This erosion of resilience creates a cycle of superficial satisfaction and deeper dissatisfaction. When we embrace discomfort as a necessary part of growth, our perspective shifts. Challenges become opportunities and pain becomes a signal of progress rather than failure. We learn that love requires vulnerability, success demands discipline, and purpose calls for sacrifice. Without discomfort, we remain stagnant, trapped in a hollow existence masked by fleeting pleasures. Reclaiming the value of discomfort is an act of rebellion against a culture that profits from our avoidance. It's a commitment to live fully with courage and integrity, because the greatest growth comes not from escaping pain, but from facing it head-on, and in doing so discovering the strength and meaning that lie on the other side. In a world that bombards us with endless temptations, self-control emerges as the rarest and most valuable form of power. It is not about denying pleasure altogether, but about mastering your relationship with it, choosing when to indulge and when to resist. This ability to regulate desire is the cornerstone of freedom, the gateway to building a meaningful and purposeful life. Without self-control, pleasure becomes a tyrant, demanding constant satisfaction and pulling you into cycles of addiction and distraction. But with it, pleasure transforms into a reward, a moment of fulfillment earned through discipline and intention. Self-control is the muscle that allows you to delay gratification, to withstand discomfort, and to focus on long-term goals instead of fleeting impulses. This mastery doesn't come easily. It requires awareness, courage, and consistent effort. Every time you say no to an unnecessary distraction or resist the urge to chase instant pleasure, you strengthen this muscle. You reclaim authority over your mind and your choices. And with that authority comes confidence, a quiet power that radiates from knowing you are not a slave to your impulses. More than just personal strength, self-control is a form of rebellion against a culture designed to keep you dependent and distracted. It challenges the norms that equate happiness with constant stimulation and convenience. By choosing restraint, you resist becoming a passive consumer of life and instead become its active creator. True freedom is found in this balance, embracing pleasure without letting it control you. It is the wisdom to enjoy life's joys deeply and fully without sacrificing your goals, values, or inner peace. When you develop self-control, you unlock the potential to build something real, to love deeply, and to live authentically. Ultimately, self-control is not a limitation. It is the ultimate power to shape your destiny on your own terms. Understanding the problem is just the first step, but the deeper truth is far more unsettling. Your brain has already been rewired by the constant flood of cheap pleasures and endless distractions. This rewiring doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, relentless process that chips away at your capacity to focus, to think deeply, and to truly experience life. The modern world doesn't just steal your attention, it reshapes your mind itself. Every notification, every flashing advertisement, every 15-second video trains your brain to expect instant gratification. Neurons form new pathways, reinforcing the habit of seeking immediate reward rather than delayed, meaningful satisfaction. This conditioning rewires your impulse control, making it harder and harder to resist distractions, to stay present, or to engage in sustained, purposeful thought. The consequences are profound and personal. You might remember a time when you could immerse yourself in a book for hours, losing yourself in the richness of ideas and stories. Or a moment when silence wasn't something to fear, but a space to breathe and reflect. Today, that kind of focus feels like a distant memory. The ability to tolerate boredom has diminished, replaced by an incessant need for stimulation. This fragmentation of attention doesn't just impact productivity, it affects your emotional and mental well-being. A distracted mind struggles to process complex emotions or solve deep problems. It becomes reactive rather than reflective, impulsive rather than intentional. As your brain adapts to constant interruptions, your capacity for self-awareness and critical thinking erodes. Perhaps most alarmingly, this rewiring dulls your ability to question and challenge the world around you. A mind addicted to distraction is a mind less likely to resist control or seek truth. This is the masterstroke of modern manipulation. By hijacking your attention, the system blunts your resistance. You don't need to be forcibly silenced when your focus is shattered and your curiosity stifled. But awareness of this rewiring is empowering. It's a call to action to reclaim your cognitive autonomy. Like any habit, rewiring can be reversed, but only through conscious effort and discipline. It means deliberately stepping away from distractions, embracing boredom, and practicing deep focus. It means retraining your brain to value presence over instant reward. Your mind is not broken, it has simply adapted to a toxic environment. The path forward is challenging, but clear. Rebuild your mental muscles, regain your attention, and awaken your capacity to think deeply. Because reclaiming your mind is reclaiming your freedom. Mastery of the mind is not a birthright, it is a skill, a muscle that must be trained, exercised, and strengthened through deliberate effort. Just as you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without weeks of preparation, or to build physical strength without consistent workouts, you cannot expect your mind to resist distraction and cultivate focus without intentional practice. This truth is often overlooked in a culture obsessed with instant results and effortless gratification. Every decision to resist an urge, every moment spent sitting with discomfort rather than fleeing to distraction, is a repetition in the mental gym. These small acts of self-discipline, repeated over time, build resilience and self-mastery. They rewire your brain's pathways, reinforcing the ability to delay gratification, sustain attention, and engage deeply with life's challenges. Like any muscle, the mind grows stronger with consistent focus training. But this training isn't easy. It requires embracing discomfort, choosing boredom over constant stimulation, patience over impatience, reflection over reaction. It means saying no to the easy pleasures that fragment your attention and yes to the hard work that leads to real growth. And it requires humility, acknowledging that you are not yet where you want to be, but that progress comes one choice at a time. The rewards, however, are profound. A trained mind grants you freedom, the freedom to control your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. It gives you clarity in a noisy world, focus amidst chaos, and strength to pursue what truly matters rather than what is convenient. It's the foundation upon which meaningful relationships, purposeful work, and authentic happiness are built. This process also reconnects you with your deeper self. When the mind is strong, it becomes a sanctuary, a place where you can retreat from the distractions of modern life and find stillness. In that stillness, creativity, insight, and true understanding emerge. You begin to live consciously rather than reactively. Training your mind is not a one-time effort, but a lifelong commitment, a daily practice of choosing presence over distraction, substance over superficiality. Each time you break the cycle of impulse and choose intention, you grow stronger. And with strength comes freedom, the freedom to live your life on your own terms, fully awake and in control. Breaking free from the cycle of addiction and distraction means something profound. You no longer belong to the system that seeks to control you. This is not just about putting down your phone or turning off notifications. It's about reclaiming your identity and your power. When you stop craving constant validation and instant gratification, you transcend the invisible chains that bind most people in today's culture. The system thrives on your dependency. It profits when your attention is fragmented, when your desires are manipulated, and when your self-worth depends on fleeting pleasures. But once you develop the ability to resist these impulses, you step out of its reach. You become untouchable, not because you live without pleasure, but because you have mastered it. This mastery is a declaration of freedom. It means that pleasure is no longer a prison, but a reward, a signal that you have earned it through discipline and conscious choice. You no longer react to every impulse but respond thoughtfully, knowing what truly serves your well-being and purpose. This shift transforms how you live. You are no longer a passive consumer drifting with the currents of distraction. You are an active creator shaping your reality with intention and clarity. Your relationships deepen because you engage fully, not superficially. Your goals gain focus because you prioritize what matters over what is easy. But this freedom requires vigilance. The system is relentless, constantly evolving new ways to seduce and distract. The moment you let your guard down, the chains threaten to tighten again. Yet armed with self-awareness and self-control, you hold the key to your own sovereignty. To belong to yourself is the greatest rebellion. It is a quiet revolution against a world that wants you compliant, distracted, and weak. And it is the foundation for living a life that is truly yours, free, meaningful, and whole. At the end of the day, the most important question you can ask yourself is simple yet profound. Who's really in control? In a world overflowing with distractions, temptations, and carefully engineered pleasures, this question cuts to the heart of your freedom. If you aren't the one directing your desires, choosing your actions, and steering your attention, then who is? The truth is unsettling. When you surrender your mind to the endless chase for instant gratification, you hand over your power piece by piece to forces designed to exploit your vulnerabilities. These forces aren't always visible. They don't wear uniforms or wave flags. They operate through algorithms, media, and consumer culture, quietly guiding your impulses, shaping your thoughts, and fragmenting your focus. They don't need to imprison you physically because they have mastered the art of psychological captivity. But control is not absolute. It can be reclaimed. The first step is acknowledging the subtle ways in which your autonomy has been compromised. The second is taking responsibility for your choices, even the small ones, the decision to put down your phone to sit with boredom, to choose long-term purpose over short-term pleasure. Each act of self-mastery is a brick in the foundation of your freedom. This journey is not easy. It requires courage to face discomfort, to resist the seductive pull of distraction, and to remain present in a world that constantly demands your scattered attention. Yet with each moment of awareness and choice, you reclaim more of yourself. Ultimately, the question isn't just who controls your actions, it's who controls you. Are you the master of your mind, or have you become a servant to fleeting pleasures and external demands? Your answer defines the quality of your life and the depth of your freedom.